When I die, bury me deep, lay 2 speakers at my feet, put some headphones on my head and rock and roll me when I'm dead. Mike and Tom discuss Uncaged joint Mandy on this week's main show.
Hey, Tom, back at it again. How are you?
Hey, knock knock.
Who's there?
Eric Estrada.
Eric Estrada who?
Eric Estrada from Chips.
Indeed. I'm Mike, and this is my wonderful co-host of all things horror and sci-fi.
Yep, this is Thomas, and I'm amped up on my boomer juice. Ready to go.
Absolutely. I've got my coconut water, which a secret only Thomas knows.
Yeah, that's freshly squeezed coconuts, right?
It is. Vita coconut water, 24 ounces in a 12-ounce can.
You really got to squeeze those coconuts. Yep.
Oh yeah, it's very concentrated. Very concentrated.
Very concentrated. Yes. So today we're talking about Mandy, the 2018 movie. And Nicolas Cage gets a little wild, maybe gets a little crazy, but yeah, before we dive into it, let's talk about us for a minute.
Absolutely. As you can see by our wonderful banners above our heads, we have the always awesome original logo that Tom made, and also the thumbnail, which Tom's also very good at, and then the like and subscribe, which he also made. But we would love it. We're up to 58 subscribers. I think we had a rush of about 3 or 4 over the last couple of weeks, which is unusual for us, as we tend to gain them over the months and not weeks. But it was very nice to have 58. If you are a subscriber and you found us some way, somehow, we are absolutely thankful. And we thank you so much for doing that and hitting that subscribe button, and also liking our content. And we would really love it if you could if you could share out. It wouldn't cost you anything, but a few seconds of click. And then we were driving hard. We don't really do hard goals around here. But this is the one that I wanted to make an exception for, because we are in September and the year's about 2/3 done at this point. And boy, it would really raise Thomas and I's hopes if we could get up to 100 plus subscribers by the end of the year. I think that's doable. And I think once we hit a threshold, then we'll kind of hit the next gate to the next 1,000. We want to keep going.
Social Blade doesn't believe that. They think it'll be like on into next year before we hit 100. And I want to prove Social Blade wrong. Let's prove them wrong. If you want to prove Social Blade wrong, definitely like and subscribe and let us know that you're big fans of us, or at least are easily influenced by me telling you to like and subscribe.
Yeah, and as always, we would love to take your suggestions. If you'd like to come on the show, we definitely could make that happen as well too. We're always very fan and nerd centric, always. And I wanted to say too, just drop a comment, like, subscribe. And before we get into the main event here, I'm going to switch us over to our channel here, like we do, and we'll do a little bit more plugging, and then we'll get down to business. But I wanted to call out our last show, which was The Last Ronin, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That it was just a great, fun jaunt to kind of go back, and periodically we'll veer back here. We don't really have a plan or design, but occasionally we'll dip back into comic books. And I got to tell you, my brother-in-law actually looked up the stats for it. We were just chit-chatting the other day. And apparently, The Last Ronin is it's in the top. I forget the number, but it's like in the top 100 of like the best-selling books in America on Amazon, and it has been holding steady for that for quite some time. So it is literally probably the best and well-made comic book compilation that is out there. I mean, I'm sure there's others out there, but give a guy let a guy give a little leeway because if anything else, you won't be disappointed because it was made by the 2 original creators. It's just great content. And that's what we're not really critics. I think I always say this, Tom is a better critic than I am. But I definitely, I can throw my 2 cents here and there. Don't get me wrong. But I think I view our show as more of like a recommendation engine, if anything else. I mean, we'll do some hard hitting. I know that one of our goals, and I don't think I've ever shared this, but maybe say for you, Thomas, but it'd be really cool if like maybe one day we were big enough to, maybe go on Friday Night Tights or a show like that, or even be able to rub elbows with a Chris Gore or Rob Servations. I just recently fell into him as a YouTube content creator, because Lord knows with the strike on, these celebrities aren't getting any more famous, as it were. But anyway, I just wanted to plug our last show, Last Ronin. Do you have anything to say or add before we get into it?
I have two things. Well, I have delusions of grandeur. So instead of us coming to Friday Night Tights, maybe they'll come to us once we get big enough. And I like your idea about it being on Amazon. The Last Ronin. I've got the perfect evening for you if you haven't read The Last Ronin or seen our last podcast on it. Perfect evening, maybe a Friday, Saturday night. Get your copy of The Last Ronin through Amazon or your local comic book shop. They'd love to have you. Get your copy. Order a pizza. Enjoy your pizza. Read the comic book, and then watch your show as a finisher. To get kind of hear our what we thought of it, and then you can then clackety-clack on your computer and tell us what you think in the comments. And then if you're feeling even better, like and subscribe.
Also to note for the before we get going into the main event here, just wanted to put this out here too. Also for my brother-in-law, he also let me know that Shredder's Revenge, which came out a few years back on Steam, it's a PC game. It's a platform. It's a brawler. It had some new DLC dropped, and I think it was on sale on Steam. If I remember, I will remember. I'll put that down in the show notes below. If you are in the mood for playing more Ninja Turtles, like Thomas said, even better, play a video game too on top of it. And we might dip into a little bit because like we have some cursory things we might touch on at the end of the show. But in the meantime, I think we've kept everybody in suspense long enough, going 7 minutes in. In any case, Mandy, what a movie, for sure. I'll just go into the Just Watch here to give the folks out. I watched it. It's kind of funny because you watched it somewhere else, and I watched it somewhere else too. I didn't see any ads on the Plex version that I got.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I don't know if that's because of my ad blocker or not, but I didn't see any ads. And I was going to watch it through Shudder, but apparently I didn't pay the bill and it ran out. So, which is fine. That happens once in a while, as it goes. But where did you see it at? Where'd you watch it at?
I watched it on Tubi. Tubi's is becoming the go-to place for horror. I did a search the other day and did top 50 horror movies on Tubi, and it gave a really nice list. I'd seen a majority of them, but there was some of them that I'd been meaning to watch that are on there. So yeah, Tubi. If you've shaked your head at Tubi and it's like they don't got anything, a lot of the cool horror movies and just movies in general that Netflix dropped because they're putting in all their own stuff, their own things. A lot of that stuff has gone on to Plex or Tubi, and I think Plex and Tubi kind of share a lot of the same stuff are on both platforms. So, and then Shudder's a cheaper alternative to Netflix and all of those as well that specializes in horror, and that's definitely ad free. So
yeah, 1.5 trips to Starbucks and you'll have your Shudder paid for sure.
Yeah, you can get it like I think it's $5 a month through Amazon. So
right.
So so Mandy came out in 2018. Is the basic story is there's a couple. Nicolas Cage plays Red Miller, and his girlfriend, possibly wife, Mandy. They're living together out in the woods. Mandy happened to be walking along and is spotted by a crazed cult leader and his cult, and they hire a group of demon-possessed bikers to kidnap her. and then that triggers Red to go on a bloody red rampage of revenge. That's your basic setup. Now the movie plays very interestingly. It's set in 1983, and they filmed it digitally, but they processed the film to look like it's maybe a film filmed in the late 70s or early 80s. And that's the same thing that they did with his previous movie, Panos Cosmatos. He directed this movie, wrote and directed this movie, and his previous one, Beyond the Black Rainbow, is also kind of done like that, and is also set in 1983. So I don't know if this is Panos's multiverse that he's creating. We'll have to wait to see what his next movie will provide for us.
Oh, no. Oh, you shouldn't have said that. Now we're going to go watch The Black Rain.
Yeah.
That would be cool, though. Yeah, I was really stunned. I don't think this got a fair shake on IMDb. And of course, as you pointed out, horror movies on IMDb in general are rated, probably a point or two below where they really are at. And I think I'm more in line with where Just Watch is rating this, which is 71% here on the screen, and then that 6.5. That 6.5 is an insult to this movie. I'm glad you said that about how they processed it, because you can really tell that in this movie. It's grainy, but it's not overdone. It's not crappy. They did good quality, way better quality than what we get on nowadays. It's not that old, but it's 5 years old or so at this point.
One of the things I noticed, because this is my a repeated viewing for me of this. This is one of my favorite movies, so. Obviously,
I can see that.
It tickles all the things that I like and enjoy, and but yeah. So one of the things I noticed with this time of going through, it really made me think of how they process time in film. Like if they wanted to say that it was 1930s, they would kind of process the film to maybe look like it's from the 1930s film.
Right.
And to get the feeling of the 80s, that's how they're going to process the film. And with those lens flares, like Abrams loves to use, but yeah, it's kind of processed that way. Whereas, and so you could see the film quality of a film or something, and kind of place it in time. However, we've gotten to a point with the fidelity of film, and where it's not film anymore, it's all digital, to where there's no character to film anymore, or the digital image. It's the images that are done today are going to be relatively as crisp, and you could only go as as 4K, 8K. How many 8Ks do you have to add at this point? So the stuff that you look at today is going to probably look the same 10 years from now. You've lost. We're going to lose that kind of that quality of having that picture in a time capsule just by looking at the quality of the film, but it's going to allow the artists to kind of play with film now, and how they made this kind of look like the 80s with the film and how everything looked. They're going to be they're going to have that sandbox to play with.
Yes.
And also another thing I kind of looked at, one other thing about the 80s, something with like Stranger Things, it's taken more as a kind of a nostalgia trip. Okay, it's the 80s. Remember the 80s, or aren't the 80s so cool? Everybody's kind of nostalgic for the 80s, and the kids think it's cool. The idea of videotapes and whatnot. It's a nostalgia trip. Whereas this movie is totally not as nostalgia trip. It's kind of getting deep and murky into. It feels like you're kind of stepping into the goo of the 80s, the dark recesses of the 80s. This isn't this isn't a nostalgia trip. It's more of a, oh yeah, oh great, wow, we're in the 80s now.
Yeah, there was there was a lot of quality put behind this, and I can understand why it's one of your favorites. I this is definitely top 20 for me, top 25. I don't have a vast library other than like what we've gone over as far as horror goes, so I'm a very poor judge of character for that, but I thoroughly enjoyed this. And again, this is kind of like one of those movies like where, for me, a hallmark of a really good movie is like where you get done with it and you don't know how you feel. You don't know how to feel about it because you're still processing it. That's the same every single time I run up to, and maybe that's just how it is with me in horror movies that are really good, is that dichotomy that I have with it. And bear with me here.
Oh yeah. Yeah, and the cool thing about this movie is it pulls in all these disparate elements to it and makes it work. Like this is there's a slow pace art house movie, and it comes on you. The beginning of the movie kind of comes on you as this kind of slow pace art house movie about this couple, but it also is this testosterone filled rage of a revenge movie. But you also have comedy in it. You're kind of thrown off guard by the comedy at one point, and all of this and all of those elements work together. There's like this insanity to the movie, but all of the insane elements kind of cling to each other and hold it together and make it work despite itself. And for a movie like this, to kind of come out bombastic and kind of hit you over the head, and when it came out, it was like a huge thing in the horror community. Everybody was talking about it. Unfortunately, that didn't bleed over to the mass audience. This would have been great if it kind of spilled over, but yeah, it was like a huge thing in the horror community, and I had to see it whenever it came out. This was my go-to movie. But yeah, it's one of those movies where you want to sit down with the writer and director and just kind of find out what's in his head, And I saw an article where it said that they asked the writer-director what the movie was about. He said it was about the divorce of his parents, which I don't know. I have no idea what that means, because okay. Maybe it's the whole rage of it, that the Nicolas Cage character, because Nicolas Cage said that he was going through the breakup of his marriage when he filmed this movie, and this movie was the perfect outlet to just release that, all that emotion that was built up into him, and you could see that it just pours out. There's like this raw emotion that just pours out of him as a character, and it's really exciting because Nicolas Cage is one of those actors that is either electric on the screen and great, or he's horrible. There's no in between. Yeah, there's no in between.
Yeah.
And I was listening to another podcast, and I'll steal this guy's comment. He says that he believes that it's all up to the director. If the director knows how to harness Nicolas Cage and get the performance out of him, Nicolas is going to provide. But if the director comes at him blank and has no direction for Cage, Cage doesn't have time for that director and just kind of phones it in. But if the director knows how to get that out of Cage, it's gold. And this movie's gold with Cage.
Yeah, he because Nick Cage is a little bit older. He's not getting any younger, but I really felt like, I mean, my mind knew that, but really, honestly, his performance on here, like, I don't know how they pulled that off, but like, he didn't look any older or younger than the other lead, the actress there.
Right.
And it was when you're right, when Nicolas Cage is on, he's on. And I definitely, when I was growing up in high school, I I would watch a movie. Well, for a little bit of time, I was caught on The Rock with Sean Connery and him. And I love that movie. It's not one of his great ones, but that one, and then of course Con Air was a treat that kind of became a thing later on.
That's another thing. Everybody has a favorite Nicolas Cage movie.
It's true. It's very true.
My mom's favorite Nicolas Cage movie is Moonstruck. You know, it's
interesting.
So yeah, with Cher. But yeah, there's these other people I know will have like a Nicolas Cage, a Summer of Cage festival every year where they go through and try to find the most diverse Cage, which is easy to do, Nicolas Cage movies to kind of watch like a month worth of Nicolas Cage, and every year it's a different rotation of different movies, and it's a whole different grab bag of different things there. So yeah, it's there's a lot of fun to be had with Cage. But yeah, and also you were talking about the age thing. Cosmatus, he said that when Nicolas Cage approached him about the movie, or he approached Nicolas Cage about it, Nicolas Cage wanted to play Red in the movie, and Panos was like, "No, I want you to play the cult leader," because he had the idea of a young couple fighting against this older guy, so it was a kind of a fight against age, old versus young. And so Nicolas Cage kind of walked away from it. And then if you noticed, keen eyes out there that watched the movie, in the credits, you might have noticed Elijah Wood's name as executive producer. He kind of got involved in the movie. Yeah, him and a couple of his friends produce various movies, mostly horror movies. And they've had quite a bit of success with that. We'll have to kind of maybe watch some of their movies. But yeah, Elijah Wood got involved and kind of pulled Nicolas Cage back in. And that second talk they had, Panos said, "Yeah, okay, yeah, I could see where Cage could be Red and maybe age him up a little bit." And it's more about the revenge aspect of it as opposed to the clash of age, which I think it makes it a better movie because, yeah, like you said, Nicolas Cage is kind of ageless at this point, and he could play that because he's a little bit older than me, but yeah, he's got that kind of timeless look to him, which maybe in a couple there's a certain point in time where that age hits you like a wall. Which he hasn't hit that wall yet.
No, not at all. No, he there. And the other thing too, I wanted to comment on this too, broadly speaking, before we get into too many details. And there's not really much to spoil. This is pretty much straight rip. You see what you can. They tee it up very well, and you can obviously see it coming ahead. But nonetheless, there was no parts in this movie where it was dragging or was boring. I think the timing on it was immaculate. I don't think that it could have been cut any better than it was at all. And that just kind of goes and adds to it. If anything, it even plays into Nick Cage's to his persona. You get to know this kind of persona right away. And I think I read one of his favorite scenes of the movie was in the bathroom, when something terrible had just happened, and he's kind of recollecting himself, and he's processing this horror, that this thing that happened to him. And he said, according to what I read, that was his favorite scene of the movie, because he was able to channel his own grief into that, and you feel that you feel that it's palatable on the screen. Every step of the way is palatable, to be honest, all the way through. And the other thing I wanted to say too is this it's kind of like it kind of like a grab bag of like themes that were kind of put together, laminated together, but the finished product it fits. I think there's nothing there, but I think there's a little bit of a comic book kind of sort of feel to it. There's a little bit of Doom. There's a little bit of I want to say Doom. There's another one in the 90s, but there's a Spawn. There's a little bit of Spawn in there. There's a little bit of Evil Dead for movies. There's a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
Oh.
I'll still listen well from, I think it's the same podcaster that said that this movie is like, you remember those, during the 70s, they had a bunch of those vans with, these fantastical things painted on the side, of it, with a kind of a fantasy, kind of dark fantasy thing on the side of a van. He said it's like one of those paintings coming to life. And this film is that painting coming to life, which does have a lot of, there's a real fantasy element to it, especially later into the movie. Once Nicolas Cage is on his rampage of revenge, he remembers Mandy, and there's these animated sequences in it that are very fantasy oriented.
Yep.
That are inspired, and then he does do a little bit of drugs in this. He his character does. I don't know on set what's going on, but
no, his character, his character,
right? Exactly. There's and so I think that also affects his kind of visualization of the world. So as the movie goes on, and as his mental state kind of takes a left turn, so does the elements of the movie kind of becomes more fantastical as well.
Oh yeah, and but it does it in a way to like where it's almost like if this, I've never taken acid, and I probably never will.
No, yeah,
but I would imagine that this movie is kind of like where you, the audience, is slowly, you are becoming intoxicated as you watch it, just like just as you progress along, because there's some pretty far out, and it's not just drug induced too. There's a little bit of everything in this. There's like I said, there were echoes of True Detective season 1, which we badly need to go through and cover at some point, because that is, golly, that is one of my most favorite TV shows of all time. And I also like different people have different opinions. Season 1, 2, and 3, and then I think there's a fourth one that's going to be coming out with Jodie Foster here in the next, I don't know, year or two, whenever, or not at all, who knows. But in any case, there's just kind of this. I was curious too, like, because I saw the thing of like Lovecraftian kind of sort of things, or I don't know if they really touched on that, but it kind of had that vibe of like, there's these, you don't quite know if it's, what the hell's going on. And the other thing I kind of missed out on was, sometimes I'll have the closed captioning titles on, and sometimes I won't, because like for some reason my kiddos, they like to have that. The younger generation, for whatever reason, likes to have that on the screen. Whereas you or I probably, unless it's a foreign film or unless we really wanted to do that, then we wouldn't do that. But I did find myself missing, kind of like wanting to turn those on, but I couldn't. I didn't want to, because I didn't want to ruin the mood. I was in the movie, and like I didn't want to stop the movie. I just wanted to keep. This is another thing. It draws you in. It's so crazy how like good movies like that draw you in, and you're like, you're just kind of like, what? And I kind of joke with you. My joke, kind of not really a joke, but it's kind of like, God damn it, Thomas, what did you get me into this week?
Yeah, I know how to track down the crazy ones, but yeah, I think this generation of filmmakers have been heavily influenced by David Lynch. I think a lot of people, when David Lynch started making movies, a lot of people at the time were like, oh, well, let me be quirky and do a David Lynch movie. And a lot of those movies didn't work because they didn't have his sensibility. They didn't have the drive and the passion that he had to make a movie like he does, because it's more of a passion thing. Whereas I think these newer writer directors like Panos, they've kind of grown up with his work and are able to kind of take it in and kind of make their own spin on things. Because I can definitely see his influence, but this is very much his own. kind of movie. And there's some other filmmakers that hopefully we'll be looking at here in a future podcast. But yeah, I think he's heavily influenced. But yeah, it's great to have this kind of visionary. He's only like we said earlier, he's only done one other movie, Beyond the Black Rainbow, which also is very kind of mind altering kind of movie. It's about a kind of complex that has this psychic girl, or this girl with these abilities, and she's trying to escape. And it's set in it's very kind of mind altering and sort of a weird space. It doesn't have the kind of bombastic personality of Nicolas Cage to kind of infuse into it. So it's more of a laid back movie, but it does have a lot of dark elements as well. It's a definite go-to movie as well. And to shout out the Guillermo del Toro's show on Netflix, he has a kind of a variety, sort of like Twilight Zone, where he kind of introduces the episode. It's an anthology series where each episode is done by a different director. One of the episodes is done by our Jennifer Kent from The Babadook, and Panos does one of the episodes here. And I know it's set in the 80s. I don't know if it's 1983, but we may want to maybe even revisit that anthology on one of our podcasts. Maybe pick out at least those two to watch again.
Well, I have no doubt. Well, we're gonna have to do something special because we're just around the corner of fall and Halloween. So we're gonna have to do this whole new thing with horror that you've dragged me into. Lovingly, and you've killed me softly with the stupid horror movies that I never would have touched in a million years. Not because I hate them or love them, just because my concept of horror was 80s and slasher, or just like Shock and Awe, which were the Saw, series. But like after the second one, you've seen them all. And it just wasn't my thing. And then you shattered my preconceived notions of what horror is and how it kind of dovetails nicely with that. And again, I there's this dive into the psyche sphere of the characters where you're in and out. You don't quite know what reality is, where reality kind of becomes warped and it's in your mind and it's in their mind, but maybe it's not. And you kind of have that doubting. We've had that interplay. It plays very well in this movie. But it's not about that. It's not about that. It keeps it moving. And I like how it's almost like they kicked it old school, because at different segments throughout the film, when you're introduced and it's kind of unfurled before you and you're along for the ride, there's a few interstitials that they do, like title scenes. One is the Shadow Mountains, like that's one that they call out right away, right off the top of the movie. That's not giving anything away. And then another one is the children of the New Dawn, or something like that.
I think that's what it was.
And and then the third one that I recall, that I remember anyway, was Mandy. And then it kind of
that's the cool thing about it. Like an hour and 15 minutes into the movie, they put up the title of the movie.
I love that. I wish that he knew what he was doing, and it works perfectly with, and the animation too. I believe that, and to kind of steal your thunder a little bit here, because you have all the Easter eggs sometimes. I read that it was one animator who did that, who did the animation, and it wasn't too much, but it was enough. But boy, it ties in perfectly. Like I said, Panos knows what the hell he's doing. He knows how to help. He knows how to make a movie for sure, for damn sure.
Yeah. And just to touch on that Mandy title, the cool thing about that is, well, there's even though the movie starts with King Crimson song, but also it has a very much of a kind of metal feel to it. There's not there's not a lot of music to it. The soundtrack's very much kind of synthy, kind of 80s kind of vibe to it. But there's kind of the spirit of the movie's kind of metal in that when they show Mandy's name on there as the title card, it kind of, you see it clearly, Mandy, and then the animation kind of starts with the name, and it kind of spiders out and kind of obscures the name, much like a black metal title. If you see black metal bands,
I got that feeling.
They like to obscure their name because it's cool to be so underground that people can't find your album because they can't recognize your name. And there's kind of that there. And also Nicolas Cage makes a weapon that's sort of like an axe, and I sent you an article if you want to pull it up.
Oh yeah. Let me roll into that while you talk about it, while you tee it up here.
Yeah, in the middle of the movie, he sets out on his revenge, and he gets his crossbow, and he also gets he forges an axe. Who knows where he's got this forge at? How is he able to make this axe? But he makes this axe, and it's inspired by the F in Celtic Frost's logo.
Well, it was that dude who played in, I think that guy, his black friend who he kind of knocked out, and it has the "fuck off" sticker on there.
Yeah.
I think that's the same guy who played in Predator, the original Predator, I think. Yeah. But anyway, I'll scroll. Okay, that is, holy crap! Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. So Panos says that he used that as inspiration for the axe. So the axe is definitely something to look for in there. And I think Panos says that he doesn't have the actual axe, but he has one of the replicas they used during the filming, or one of the prop ones. So it would be kind of cool. Now also, there's a Legion M help finance and I think distribute the movie, and I sent you their link. They have they have stores for their various movies they've helped, and Mandy has its own store. So once you watch Mandy the movie, you can get your Mandy memorabilia from their website. We're not sponsored by them or anything, but it
was right here. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yep. So you can get your Mandy pin and your vinyl records, and I think you could get the axe. There's like a replica of the axe in there. There's also a Nicolas Cage plushie, which I'm kind of wanting, and then there's a commercial during the movie that Nicolas Cage watches, which is for Cheddar Goblin, which looks much like the Kraft macaroni and cheese box. They're advertising macaroni and cheese, and it's the Cheddar Goblin, and he's kind of a disturbing little guy there. But he's there to sell your kids macaroni and cheese. And that commercial I read was actually directed by the director who does that Adult Swim video called Too Many Cooks. I don't know if you've seen that. If you haven't, Too Many Cooks is this kind of hallucinogenic kind of thing. You've got to watch it at one point. But here's the commercial for the Cheddar Goblin.
It's very short, but they actually play this in the movie. But in the way that they do it, they digitize it and they 4:3 it, the right aspect ratio. I mean, it looks like it looks exactly like something you would have seen in the 80s. Hands down. Oh yeah. Now, obviously, that wouldn't have made it, but it's kind of like, it kind of plays on that. Back in that day, you had not Whose Line Was It? It was the show on Nickelodeon. It was the I think you know what I'm talking about. I can't think of the name of it. Shame on me for not knowing, but and this is kind of a stream of consciousness kind of type show here. But it's a Goblin good time. Yeah. When you get slimed, it's kind of the gross out kind of factor.
Well, thing. In 70s and 80s, they were like kind of let loose as far as what they could do as far as advertising towards kids, whereas today everything's kind of run through committee and test groups, and Anything that's kind of marginally weird or scary doesn't get out to the public. But back in the day, we would get we would have these kind of nightmarish things come to us in our cartoons and shows and commercials. So this would have been kind of out of the realm back then to actually have this as a commercial. But yeah, on that Legion M, they at one point were selling a plushie of the Cheddar Goblin. I'm kind of upset that I wasn't able to get one of those, but they posted on there. There's the plushie for Nicolas Cage. Yeah, you can also get a mask of Nicolas Cage on here for I think it's I think the axe is what
$2.99.
Yeah, and then the head bust is if you want to drop a cool $2,000 on that, there's you can look like Nicolas Cage.
I don't doubt that this instantly had fans that saw it at Sundance and as an indie film. I have no doubt. Unfortunately, it cost $6 million to make, which is pennies on the dollar for like any kind of a film nowadays. Even 5 years ago, that's super cheap. But unfortunately, it only made $1.7 million at the box office from my notes. But in any case, it just didn't kind of catch fire like we hoped it would. But you know what? I'm sure I guess it's kind of an unwritten rule for cult classics, like where they have kind of some kind of stumbling and they just don't hit a wide of a margin as they did. But I would say this. I would say unless you have really mature, I wouldn't bring this into the realm of like letting your kids watch this until they're 18. I mean, that's easy. Maybe 16, 17, maybe if you're that kind of thing. But I wouldn't be able to bring this to watch the kids. That's why I kind of have to like pick and choose my times when I watch these things sometimes, because you can't just like kind of turn it on. So I kind of have to truncate my viewing occasionally so the kiddos can see. But in any case, regardless, this thing, it took me by surprise because I think it goes better the less is more. If you roll into this and you don't quite know what's going on, I think it fits very, very well for that frame. If you allow yourself, and really, there's kind of a scene there like where they're just having a very intimate, very casual kind of a man and woman, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, wife scene, whatever they are, couple scene. Where they're kind of talking and he's like, oh, I think we should move away, and she goes, why? It's so peaceful out here. And it really is. They go the extra mile to kind of show you, again, there's cinematography here is really good, really very well done in my opinion. But and the shots, really good directors can use the camera and show you the world that they want you to see, that they want you to walk away with. And the only thing that would make this movie better would be to see it in a theater, see it on as big of a screen as you can with the highest quality that you can. And this begs for it. This begs to be seen like that. And I think that goes hand in hand with it, but it's just, I really did like this. This is going to be like one of those that like, the more that I think about it, the more it will grow on me. And not that it doesn't have all that much to grow because I really liked it. There's some other films like where it was kind of like 2 or 3 weeks out and I just didn't know how I thought. Like one of the ones that I was Possession, that we've talked about here and there, but that's one that I love. I love that one.
Yeah, and I like that with Nicolas Cage and his kind of out there performance in this. You really needed an antagonist to really be able to play off of and compete with Nicolas Cage. And their cult leader, Jeremiah Sand, that's the character's name. I forget the actor's name, but he did a very good job of holding his own.
Linus Roach.
Linus Roach, yeah. He did a wonderful job. As the cult leader, the one that immediately comes to mind is Charles Manson.
And I got that vibe too. Yeah,
he very much embodies that. He calls people pigs in it, much like Charles Manson called people pigs. Yep. And also, Charles Manson was a failed musician that became a cult leader. And same thing with Jeremiah Sands. At one point, he pulls out an album with his name on it and plays the music to seduce a woman, Mandy. And she's not having any of it. But yeah, it's he's very much created a cult of himself and is very much into himself. And now the various cult members are very, very specific. They're very much an archetype of various cult members. There's the doofus one that just is in there for the thrills. There's the guy, his second in command, that is very much into him, is the yes man, and then there's the woman that was probably the first one that got inducted in there, and she's kind of aging out as a someone that he's interested in, and so she's kind of the motherly figure. And then there's the younger girl that's very much into the cult, that maybe sees Mandy as a threat coming in. But yeah, each of them have their own personality, and they don't have a lot of screen time or very much dialogue, but the director's able to really tell you their stories by the visual cues and the limited information that you do have of them. That creates a very interesting character. Now, my favorite of the cult people aren't there very long. He's unfortunately sacrificed early on. But he's kind of overweight, has blonde hair. He kind of reminded me of kind of aged up Cabbage Patch Kid. I don't know if you had the same reaction.
Okay, yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Yeah, I there was a lot of them, and I'll say I don't know how this director did it, but somehow he gave each one of enough time for you to develop a reaction to every one of them. I guarantee you, there's every single one of them, like whether it's the little sister or whatever, like where it's kind of like where you kind of don't know, like where you kind of are caught in her confusion and her kind of just kind of like she didn't want to be there, obviously, but you're not quite sure, that kind of thing, all the way to the dad, to the mother figure.
Yep.
And I think that also plays on this twisted, the concept of you have this violation. And now that I'm thinking about it, like you have this violation, like where there's this couple, they're innocent, and they're just they're just living their lives, and they just want to be alone. They just want to be together. They're just living their lives. And all of a sudden this creepy family comes, and, it's a very twisted take on the family unit, as it were.
There's a scene, we won't go into details because of spoilers, but there's a scene where all of them are there in front of Nicolas Cage, and something's happening there. But that scene really shows you how evil they are, but also how pathetic they are, how absolutely pathetic this group is. And that's played, there's no really any dialogue in it, but you see each of their faces, and you kind of understand each of them, their motivation and why they're attached to that cult leader. And you also see the cult leader, and you understand what their world is, how evil they are, but also how absolutely pathetic they are as human beings. And the be able to do that within one scene and have it read so clearly is really good. And he uses dialogue very specifically. There's if a scene doesn't need dialogue, it's not there. There's in some movies will
tell you what to think.
Tell you what to think. Also, there's a lot of times there'll be information dumps where it catches the audience up to speed, and sometimes most of the time those dumps are information dumps are kind of boring because it's just kind of telling information. To do it well is very good. There's a scene where he goes to Carruthers, like you said, Bill Duke, who was also in Predator, and there's sort of a kind of an information dump there, but it's done very humorously, and it's obviously the funniest scene in the movie, one of my favorite scenes. And at one point he said that Nicolas Cage said, "I'm going to be hunting Jesus freaks," and Crothers says, "I didn't know they were in season."
Yeah.
and that would fit perfectly in one of those kind of goofy revenge movies that you would see. But this movie, it should be out of place, but it fits perfectly. It fits beautifully. And also, I was going to say that with revenge movies, it's a story that's been told over and over again. It's the way you tell it that makes it interesting
And fresh.
And fresh. Another current day revenge movie that's hugely popular, John Wick. Both of these movies are very much different, but are going for that revenge story, and both tell their stories beautifully, but in different ways. And and it's wonderful that we have a world where both exist.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I was going to say too, kind of touching back onto the scene of the atmosphere, the world building, the visuals. Also, not to be, we kind of touched on it a little bit, but Joanne Johansson wrote this. He did the soundtrack, I believe.
Unfortunately, he passed away.
Yeah. Unfortunately, this was one of his last ones. But if anything, it just kind of shows like how great and talented he is, and it kind of sucks that we can't have his talent more. But regardless, this is it. And he did a great job for sure. With that for sure. Yeah. And I was gonna say,
but yeah, he also did the score for Sicario and Arrival.
Oh shit! Well, those are two great movies. Like Sicario is amazing, in my opinion, and Sicario. So is Sicario 2. Not as good as the original, but it still holds its own. Probably more so than like a typical sequel would. But usually your sophomore revisit is kind of meh. Not so with in my opinion anyway. Yeah, and I was gonna say too. I wish I could have kind of made this stretch, and I'm not really giving anything away, but there is a very, and I think it kind of it's made not so much as how I was taking it, but as like kind of another way of putting it is kind of like you see this journey that Red Miller is on, and you see you see it through. I'll put it that way, and then you're left with the very last few seconds of the film before the credits roll. You're kind of shuttled to this kind of strange visual. I'll just leave it there, not to spoil anything. But you kind of see it, and it just kind of goes back to show like how alien the world has become. And you take this trip where you go from this very peaceful, tranquil scene all the way through to this, brutal tour, a revenge tour, and it kind of leaves you like, what?
Yeah, and I guess it also kind of, now that I think about it, it kind of hammers home that once you go through this, there's no way to go back home.
No.
So there's new frontiers that you can head off into, and then the credits are oddly at the end. They're oddly without sound. They just kind of go by, and much like your favorite Marvel movie, at the very end there's an extra scene. I don't know if you stuck around for that.
I didn't. I wish I would have known. Otherwise, I would have. But no, I did not see that. I did not.
It's kind of a still shot, or maybe it kind of zooms out. I don't know, but it's it's just Mandy's artwork that she was sketching on throughout the movie. So if you go back a second time to watch it, kind of look out for that. And for those of you that haven't watched it yet, hang through all of it.
Yeah. Now this isn't going to spoil anything, but there was a small dialogue at the very start of the film where it's just him, Red, and Mandy. Oh, the cat just decided that she wanted to come down from her perch. Anyway, where they're talking and they're talking about art or something, and I could swear that he says something about Galactus. I don't know if I was making that up or if that was like actually kind of a thing, but like I wanted to kind of touch on that if I heard right or I didn't quite get the dialogue of what they were saying.
They were talking about their favorite planets, and Mandy says her favorite planet's Jupiter, because there's a storm that's been going on Jupiter for thousands of years. She asked him what his favorite planet is, and
he said Galactus.
Saturn first, but then he says, No, I think it's good. It's Galactus. And she goes, but he's not a planet. But he goes, but he eats planets. That was cool little nerd wink. That was the only point in the movie. There's crazy stuff going on in this movie, and you just have to be buckled in and ready for the ride and just kind of go with it. Like whenever the demon bikers show up, and they look like maybe kind of biker versions of the Cenobites from the Hellraiser movie. You just gotta go with it. You know, if you can't go with it, then you're not gonna like the movie. But the whole thing where he's talking about Galactus, in 1983, unless you were a complete comic book nerd, you wouldn't have known Galactus. So that kind of threw me out just a little bit, because I was like,
wait a second.
Red's character is sort of like this. They're out in the woods. He's a logger. He's this man's man that's out logging. His wife or girlfriend is the one that's reading the horror novels and doing the art, and wouldn't maybe know who Galactus is. But yeah, it's like Red. I was like, I don't know, but yeah, maybe he is that closet nerd that we always.
And I think I there is no mention of this. Is just my own personal 2 cents. But I think that earlier in the show I said Spawn. Because there is a scene with the chain, but now that I think about it, and I did kind of get this a little bit too, but I didn't really write it down. But talking about this kind of refreshed my memory. Like it is kind of like Ghost Rider. It is kind of like this could easily be a little bit different cutting. Like he could easily have turned into Ghost Rider, which is a famous Spirit of Vengeance, kind of character. Yep. That and Spawn is too. It kind of plays homage to that a little bit, in my opinion. It does with the chain. Todd McFarlane. Anyway, there's touches, and I like how it doesn't treat you like a baby. It just kind of slips these things in, and you just accept them because they belong to this world, and I love that. I love that. Like whereas like God, when movies do like fan service, some do it well, some do it very horribly. It just kind of it's kind of like if you've ever been in a car with somebody who's learning how to drive stick. It's not smooth. It's very jerky. You kind of get, this is kind of how it feels sometimes with the fan service. But this one wasn't like that at all. And of course, maybe some of this stuff is just things that I'm bringing into that weren't really there. Just for my own enjoyment of the film. But others, like, I just like those callbacks. I like those tie-ins. Because that's exactly what, what a couple would be talking about, that kind of thing. So they nailed it perfectly. And I love that. Yeah. I love that. And I also love this too, because I think Red drives an SUV at the time, and it's I think it's a Blazer. I'm pretty sure it's a Chevy GMC Blazer. I believe. I don't think it's a Bronco, because I learned how to drive in a Bronco. I could be wrong. Watch me be wrong. But in any case, I learned how to drive stick on that 79 Ford Bronco. You couldn't shift into first gear for anything because it was geared too low. But I have fond memories of that. And one of these days it would be cool to get a square body like that. But add it to the list of wants, right?
You're right.
But in any case, I think we're kind of rolling right on the dot for an hour. But I was going to say, I think we covered most things for this. Yep. This is just watch it. Like this is you got to kind of I hesitate to say that you got to be in the mood for it, because I don't think that I don't think that's a great way to put it. I think you should just, if you're in the mood for,
it's a movie that'll put you in the mood.
That's true.
Now,
that's
true. If you allow the movie to have its way with you, if you fight the movie, then obviously you're not going to have a good time. But that movie's going to take you on a journey, and you're either in for it or you're not. But yeah, you kind of know relatively quick if you're in for it. And one other thing I'd like to say is. Richard Brake, he plays the chemist in it. He does a really wonderful performance. I think he's only in one scene. He does a great job. He has there's a tiger. He has a Bengal tiger, which is kind of flashback because early on in the movie, Red has a T-shirt with a Bengal tiger on it as well. But the Bengal tiger's named Lizzie, and in the script, Lizzie was going to be a lizard, and Richard showed up on set, and the director's like, "Oh yeah, Lizzie's a tiger now."
That's funny. Funny.
Yeah, it makes sense in the movie, but yeah, if you're wondering why the tiger's named Lizzie, that's why it was going to be a lizard.
Yeah, and he drove a 83 Chevy K10 pickup, I guess, with a attachment on the back, but it's definitely stick. But in any case, not that anybody really cares. But yeah, I tried to look up if there was any, a meaning to the 44 shirt that he wore throughout the movie, and I didn't find anything. So it could have just been just the shirt that they had.
There's some speculation on
really?
On IMDb. Let's see. I had it in front of me here. Let me see. It seemed to. I think they ended with, oh yeah, here it is. Could be a reference to Mark Twain's unfinished novel, The Mysterious Stranger. One of the supernatural characters' name is number 44, and has sort of supernatural powers to expose the futility of mankind's existence. It could be a reference to Reggie Jackson of the New York Yankees. His number was the 44. Could be a reference to David Richard Berkowitz, serial killer, who's also known as Son of Sam and the 44 caliber killer. Or, it could be just a number. That's what they ended on. So yeah.
It's just a number.
It could be, yeah. It's his favorite shirt, regardless. And he got pissed that, that was a kind of a meme. I was reading a review where they said, well, you saw how John Wick got mad when they killed his dog. Look how mad, Nicolas Cage will get if they rip his shirt in Mandy. I was like, yeah, that's not really what the movie's about, but okay, it's fun for the memes, I guess.
Right, right.
And who doesn't like memes? Speaking of which, I created a meme this week. I used to have this reoccurring theme where I talked about my fortune cookies messages.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I got one Sunday. It's a legit fortune cookie. I had a message. I've got it right here, but it says, "Turn your scars into stars," which maybe it's kind of thematic for this. And I read that. I saw this fortune cookie writer. It must have been in an emo band, because that sounds like a lyric from an emo band album. But or
it is
song.
funny.
But yeah. So but yeah, I think with that poorly told joke, I think we're getting up on the end here.
Yeah, I think so. I think we'll. I just was gonna say while before we end here, I'm gonna buy myself time here to craft our outro. But I was gonna say too, there's been we don't usually do this, and I guess just to kind of buy time a little bit, we can do a little bit of a thing for like any games that you're looking forward to. In the news or anything like this. We had a big release that just came out, Starfield, which I've been waiting forever for, and I did download it and play that. Look, we've talked about this forever, and we have delved. Credit to Tom, because he's done a better job on jumping on the computer and playing and sharing that out to the audience. But regardless, would love to do a let's play or something one of these days here soon.
Yeah. Yeah, I know you got Starfield. Yeah, I made my choice with the PlayStation 5. I'm not ready to dive into the Xbox Series X or S, which Starfield's on, and also my computer, my gaming rig is several years old, so I think Starfield would make it kind of kick its feet and scream if I try to play it on there. But yeah, so yeah, I'll let you take over the Starfield. But as far as PlayStation coming up in October, I'm looking forward to Spider-Man 2 and also the new Assassin's Creed game. I'm really looking forward to that. That's supposed to be back to the basics. But speaking of which, I've been playing on my PS5 is been playing Witcher 3, which I never finished, and they had
Oh yeah,
kind of a spruced up, kind of nicer edition on the PS5. And it was on sale, so I grabbed that and I've been kind of playing through that and really enjoying myself. I've been kind of teasing in my mind doing a play stream. I just downloaded the director's cut of Death Stranding, so I've been kind of maybe thinking about playing that, which it's basically package delivery simulator, and I was gonna call my stream UPS can't touch me, but yeah, I haven't got around. I was going to do a surprise stream last night, but I started downloading it, and it took a little bit longer than I planned for, so I didn't do that, but maybe look for a pop-up stream here soon of that.
Yeah, we're definitely going to do something special here with some gaming here in the not too distant future. But yeah, kind of circling back to the thing. Go watch Mandy. It'll, like Tom said, it's absolutely right. It'll put you in the mood. You'll get sucked around. Maybe not for the faint of heart or squeamish. Although it is gory and graphic, but it's not like I think The Hills Have Eyes were much more in your face about that. This isn't like that kind of thing. It's more of like how I think it would be more along the line of like an A24 level of gore. That and nudity, that's what it kind of reminded me of a lot. Like where it's very tasteful, like how it shows what it shows. And it's not just showing you to shock the hell out of you,
Yeah, and it's like A24, but with a lot of testosterone, if you get my meaning.
Absolutely.
There's there's
delicacy to A24 films.
Yeah. There's a kind of meaty manhandling nature of this movie that I quite enjoy, and that's just part of being Nicolas Cage. And this movie is timeless in that it's set in the past, and the way it's told is kind of timeless as well. There's no triggers. There's nothing to pull you out of the experience. It's of and unto itself. There's no political agenda. There's nothing. It's all about just telling a good story, which I will come back to time and time again as my go-to movies are those that are timeless and tell a timeless story.
Absolutely, and bear with me here.
What's more timeless than a revenge story? I mean, come on. And also, I shout out to Tubi again. I'm not their shill. I'm not getting paid by Tubi, but Tubi, by God, it's got a lot of good horror movies. The past couple of weekends, I've been just gorging myself on horror movies, and they're all coming from Tubi. I go, okay, Tubi, give me something. And there's a movie. What am I? This one movie that I absolutely love. It's a horror comedy. I won't give the name of it. And you could guess in the comments if you want to. What it is. It's a New Zealand movie. But I didn't think. And I was like, okay, Tubi, if you have this movie, you have my heart. And it had the movie because I haven't been able to find it anywhere, and I don't know. And I know it's on Plex as well. But it's a movie that I just absolutely love, and we're gonna do it. I don't know if it'll be in October or not, but hopefully here soon we'll do this movie. But yeah, there's a lot of stuff on Tubi that I've been watching and also want to watch for our podcast. So if you might as well download Tubi if you're going to be watching our channel.
I really do need to reach out to Just Watch because we use them like every show. I mean, they are,
Mm-hmm.
and just to be honest with you, I just kind of found it at random when we were searching
Mm-hmm.
around for like just something other than IMDb.
Mm-hmm.
Where there's nothing wrong with IMDb. It's just you kind of get old, but it's a great thing. It actually has a very good recommendation engine, I would say. But maybe
Mm-hmm.
they'd be willing to throw over a few shekels, so long as we can preserve our independence and say what we want to say about it. I don't think they would care about that. But
Oh yeah.
I mean, good God, we use them every other show, like when we're doing movies and TV shows. It's great. And I was going to say, before we go out, please like, comment, subscribe. If you made it this far, we thank you so much. Even if not, if you
and go ahead and ring that bell for notification.
Absolutely, yeah. And in the coming weeks here, I think in November, I have plans to. I have it on my calendar to get us put on other podcasting platforms as audio only. That is in the works, as well as a website refresh because ours is no longer in service, but it is what it is. And we're only two guys just doing this for fun. And boy, we thank you so much for if you're one of those few subscribers that recently joined us and tick that yes on wanting to know and learn more. We thank you again. And again, it would really help us out if you could share the show. And maybe if we can hit 100 before the end of the year, maybe we can do something special. But in any case, I've been Mike.
And I'm Tom. But if you're a super fan, what you need to do is go to that website, get you that F axe that Nicolas Cage had in the movie. Buy that replica and smash that like button. Smash it with that axe and subscribe, and then you'll be our super fan. And if you want to record it and post it, that'd be great as well on
Kill it with vengeance.
Yeah, absolutely. And with that, I've been Tom, and there's Mike again.
Indeed. Here comes the treat.
Mandy avenged. Now scam dude. This has been a The1st-TheLast-TheNerdom production.
Peace out.